Round 8 at the Indiana Regional Championships is about to begin. Both of these players are 7-0. I am Pooka. We have Joel Moskow, a local player from the Chicago area. I guess it's not really local when you're in Indiana anymore, huh? Sorry, I'm too used to being in my area. But Joel is a player from the Chicago area who has performed very well recently. As you can see, he is 7-0 at this point. And he's going to be facing off against the one and only Cawthon, who is a two-time Worlds finalist, qualified for every single World Championship. 10 in a row dating back to the Wizards of the Coast era in 2002. So, one of the most consistent players, one of the best players we've ever seen. So this should be an interesting matchup between these two guys here. Ross, of course, moved to Chicago as well. So this is a matchup we're probably going to see a little bit more often at these local tournaments. Now, Joel is playing Darkrai, Sableye, Crushing Hammer, and Ross is using, you see a Victini and you're like, what is that? What kind of a crazy deck is he using? Well, it's just Rayquaza, Eelektrik, but he plays the Victory Star Victini to just reflip for your Thunder Wave on Dynamo. So you just simply tried to paralyze your opponent until you can set up a massive Rayquaza EX and then Dragon Burst for a knockout. Right away, Joel has used a Juniper and he attached his Dark Energy in his hand. I don't like that. I think you should always, with this sort of a deck... Oh, actually, he discarded another Dark. I take that back. My point was going to be, if you just have one Dark in your hand and you're going to play a Juniper, always just play the Juniper and don't attach, because then you can Dark Patch your energy to your bench Pokemon. You need to get Dark in the discard pile for Dark Patch. So Joel understands that. Now I'm feeling a little dumb for bringing this up, but it's alright. Looks like Joel did not get a Dark Patch. That's going to be a big thing here, where if he could get a Dark Patch from that Juniper and get a Dark on his bench Darkrai the first turn, he could threaten a turn 2 Night Spear. But the way things are now, it's going to be a little tough to do that. So let's see what Ross decides to do. This might actually be one of his toughest matchups. Darkrai on its own just dismantles Eelektrik. Eelektrik has 90 hit points. And then Darkrai does 90 with Night Spear and then 32 bench Pokemon. So even though you think, oh, Rayquaza EX, Dragon Burst, knockout Darkrai, one hit, that's an easy matchup. No. What happens is you discard all your energy with Dragon Burst, and then the Darkrai player just catches up your Electrics. And then they just Night Spear and knocks them out. And then you can maybe fuel up a second Rayquaza, maybe Dragon Burst a second Darkrai. And then they get their third Darkrai and knock out the rest of your Electrics, and you just kind of fizzle out and lose. So Ross, I'm sure he understands this. Oh, he's gonna Ultra Ball away a Bianca and a Super Ball, or Super Rod, which could actually end up being a big card to discard in this matchup. Joel plays Crushing Hammer. So if Joel can discard all of the fire energy from Ross's Pokemon, that's going to make it so that Ross cannot use Dragon Burst with Rayquaza EX anymore. And then at that point he's just left with, Raikou. That's going to be the only thing he can really attack with at that point. So that Super Rod hitting the discard pile turn 1 is going to be a big point of emphasis in this match. Especially if you're Joel, you have to recognize this and say, alright, my goal this game now is to Crushing Hammer, save them for all of Ross's fire energy that get attached to Rayquaza EX. If I can discard those off his Pokemon, I can get a clear path to victory because he'll never be able to knock me out in one hit. So this gotta be a painful start for Ross as he takes a fairly lengthy search here for his Ultra Ball. Just gonna take a look to see what's prized, what's in there, how many fire energy do I have to work with. These are all important things to look for. And it looks like he's going to take the Dynamo. Go figure. The decision he was making was not what Pokemon to take. It was just looking to see what he had left in there. So he's gonna play that switch, and very interesting that he decided to discard his Super Rod on the first turn given that he had all of these things, you know. Usually people would just discard a lightning and be happy to get that in the discard pile turn 1. But Ross, you know, he's playing a more conservative route. It's kind of risky discarding the Super Rod, but he's going for the more conservative. I know I'm going to get a turn 1 Thunder Wave here. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. We'll see if that pays off or not as the game goes on. So he's going to draw 6 from his N. And we'll see if he gets more Dynamos out here. Yeah, he drew another Lightning, so you got to think that he would have been able to Thunder Wave still. He would have had the benefit of having the Lightning in the discard pile and having the Super Rod left in his deck. So a questionable move turn 1 from Ross, but you know, I'm not going to question his judgment. Clearly he knows what he's doing, and he's one of the best in the game for a reason. Maybe there's just something I'm not thinking about. But Ross does have another Ultra Ball in his hand. He could discard a Lightning with that, and then probably Random Receiver. That would help him, you know, thin out some cards in his deck and also get Lightning in the discard pile. And discarding a Random Receiver, it gets rid of a way to find a supporter, but it's not getting rid of a supporter. So it's usually a card you don't mind discarding. But it looks like Ross might discard the Bianca instead, but no, he decides to go for the Random Receiver. I agree with that. And he'll probably just grab a Rayquaza EX here just to get that on the board. And that's exactly what he does. So there is the big Rayquaza EX, the monster of this matchup, who just can knock anything out in one hit if it's got enough energy. It's kind of like Mewtwo, but you know, it just kind of explodes and then discards all of its energy. Whereas Mewtwo is just kind of a gradual, I'm going to build up my energy and I'm going to keep it there. Do a little less damage, but I'm going to do a lot. Alright, so we get the first of several Thunder Waves, I'm sure, that will paralyze Joel's Sableye. Now Joel, I do not believe he plays Switch. I'm probably thinking he wishes he did at this point. A lot of people when they were playing Ross probably wish they were playing Switch in this tournament, because that would really help you get out of this paralysis. It's so annoying to just sit there and be like, okay, I can't do anything because I am paralyzed. In the previous format we had that stuff with Vanillux and Excelgor, where you had Vileplume in play, so the Allergy Flower would lock out your trainers. But in this format, people are like, alright, I don't need to really play Switch in Darkrai decks because I have free retreat. Why waste the space on that? So people like Ross will take advantage of this by playing the Victini to just continually paralyze them with Thunder Wave until they're set up. You know, Eelektrik decks are fairly clunky. In my experience, they're actually the clunkiest decks I've ever played in this format. They just hit turns where you don't always draw what you need, you don't always get your Eelektriks quickly enough, you don't get Lightning in the discard pile, you whiff some stuff here and there, you get a lull where you don't always draw some supporters. So this Thunder Wave strategy buys you time in those situations. So it's very, very useful to have this Victini on your side to give you better odds of paralyzing your opponent every turn. So if you're Joel, you probably don't really have much to do during your turns. He is going to Catcher out Dynamo. I think if you're going to Catcher out something, you would just do it on Victini to force an attachment there. Ross could just attach a Lightning and Thunder Wave with this Dynamo now. But now that I think about it, it really doesn't matter. If he's going to attach, he's going to just retreat and discard the energy. He doesn't want 2 Dynamos with energy on them. He wants energy in his discard pile to Dynamotor. But the general idea of what Joel did was, I'm going to Catcher, try to break up this paralysis lock by preventing you from attacking this turn. So if you don't have an energy to retreat, you're not going to be able to use Thunder Wave this turn. I think that's better saved for a moment when Ross gets an Eelektrik in play, because otherwise you're going to run out of catchers. They are not infinite. Sure, you can junk hunt for them, but you can't junk hunt when you're paralyzed, for one. And I don't know. I think I would just save it for when Eelektrik is out, because then you force Ross to have a switch in order to get out of that, as opposed to just having a Sky Arrow or an energy. But Ross attached a fire here. So I guess he's going to burn a switch anyway? I'm not too sure what he's going to do with this. This is actually kind of surprising that he would do this. If you can save a switch at any point, you usually want to. He's already played one switch on the first turn. He's grabbing an Eelektrik here with this level ball. And unless he has a Sky Arrow Bridge, I don't know why he would use the turn for a switch instead of just attaching and retreating and then Thunder Waving. Because then you could still Dynamotor to your Rayquaza this turn if you retreat and then evolve the one you retreated and get a Lightning on this Rayquaza. I don't know, I guess that one energy attachment really is going to go a long way in his eyes. It's worth the switch. Of course, if he has the Sky Arrow, then I'm completely off base. But it doesn't look like he does. And he's actually just... He's abandoning the Thunder Wave strategy altogether. He's playing an N. He evolved the bench Dynamo. So he's taking a bit of a risk here. I mean, well, he's taking a fairly big one. He's not going to Thunder Wave this turn. Maybe he thinks he's in a good enough position where he doesn't have to anymore, where I bought myself that one turn, no big deal. In order to go for a Thunder Wave now, he's going to need a Sky Arrow or a Switch, plus another Dynamo. And then he's going to have to use his resources on that. So I'm a little confused. I think I'm just guessing that he doesn't find this situation that threatening, and he doesn't really have to do anything right now. He doesn't have to go for the paralysis. He can afford to lose a prize here, but it's just kind of strange to see when you've put so much into the strategy that you just kind of abandon it immediately. So Ross will be able to Dynamotor here to his Rayquaza, and then probably just pass the turn because he can't really do anything else. And this is going to be kind of painful for Ross, I would think. You know, he's going to lose at least a Dynamo. And you really need to get 2 or 3 Eelektriks in play to sustain your Rayquaza EX Onslaught. And right now he's only got 2 in play. One's going to go down for sure. Because next turn Joel will get a Night Spear. There's no question about that. So I'm just a little perplexed on what Ross's thinking is here. Again, I'm sure he knows exactly what's going on, but it's just a little confusing to me as a bystander. You know, you always see things differently when you're the one sitting down at the table. When I can sit back and see what both players have, what the situation is clearly, it's you know, kind of like hindsight's 20/20. You know, I have the bird's eye view. So maybe Ross doesn't have information that I do, so I'm being, I don't know, just assuming things that I shouldn't. But that Tool Scrapper from Ross was huge. That's going to make it so he only has to discard 3 to use Dragon Burst to knock out Joel's Darkrai's. And never mind, Joel gets another Eviolite. So that's going to be -20. And oh, Crushing Hammer. This is the first big flip of this game. Gets a Tails. So Joel, you know, you got to think he's playing 4 Crushing Hammer. Every time he plays one, that's going to be targeting down that fire on Rayquaza EX. Because he knows, if I can get those out of here, I can win this game. Rayquaza EX is no longer a threat. And he's going to catch her up Eelektrik. Take the knockout on that. I do like this. And Joel is going to be on his way to putting on a lot of pressure on Ross here. So this Night Spear for 90 will knock out Eelektrik. I think he should put 30 on Victini, because that's just going to be a free prize at some point. Just set it up. It's only got 60 hit points. Another option is to go for Dynamo. I much prefer the Victini option. But he's going to go for Dynamo. I guess he's just thinking, you know what, if that doesn't evolve, I'm going to knock it out. If it does evolve, I can hit an active for 90 and then the Eelektrik for 30. And then I would set myself up for a 3-prize turn, getting a knockout. Rossi is going to promote that Dynamo. That must mean his hand is not very good. And that must mean he's going to rely on Thunder Wave here. If so, these are some gigantic Thunder Wave flips coming up. If he gets double Tails here, which is a 1 in 4 shot of failing the Thunder Wave when you got the Victini out there. He loses another Dynamo. He might lose 2 prizes at once if Joel has a catcher. And yikes, he is going for it. And he doesn't even have any Eelektrik in play. He doesn't have another Dynamo out there. This is going to be tough for Ross to come back from. And he Junipers away a Fire. That's going to be a painful card to have in your discard pile as the game progresses. Like I said earlier, that Super Rod, discarding that early on, could come back to bite him. So Junipers, he's going to want to get some more Dynamos out here for sure. You know, he needs at least 1 more out here. Alright, and there's 1. And what do you know, there's 2. So not bad. That's exactly what he needed this turn. He needs to get more Eelektriks out as soon as possible. And he needs to get heads on Thunder Wave here. I cannot express how bad a Tails would be here. But there is heads number 1. So, oh, and Joel does not take damage because there's an Eviolite on there. And this is where it's going to start to get frustrating for Joel. If Ross just buys so much time to set up again, you just think, come on, I had such an advantage here. I was just going to Night Spear you over and over and over, and you were going to struggle to set up. But the Thunder Wave from Ross, it's bought him a bunch of time at this point. And without that, I think he would just, I mean, imagine if he didn't get those heads here. There would be 2 more Night Spears happening. And that's just a game-losing position to be in. This is why Darkrai, in general, was so strong against Eelektrik decks. Quick Night Spears were pretty much impossible to come back from. Knocking out your Eelektriks. So tough to come back from. So if you can slow down Darkrai, make it so that they don't get the early knockouts on your Eelektriks, then it's pretty easy to just come in and Dragon Burst for knockouts. Now, it's actually not going to be easy at all for him to win still. Darkrai is just probably the best card in general against Eelektrik. Maybe Stunfisk is better, just because you can knock out Dynamos for 1 energy, but in general, Darkrai is pretty much the best Pokemon you could ever want against Eelektrik decks. Doing 90 and then 30 to another Pokemon is just disgusting when Eelektrik has 90 hit points. Now Joel, he plays an Ultra Ball, and he doesn't grab a Darkrai. I think he's got 2 Darkrai's prized. So now things are going to get a little more frustrating for Joel. These 2 Darkrai's are his only attackers for the rest of the game. So he's going to Dark Patch to another Darkrai, and this is just kind of panic mode. I only have these 2 Darkrai's to work with. I need to hope that Ross gets 2 Tails on Thunder Wave sometime soon. He's going to play a Juniper here and draw himself a fresh 7 cards. See what he gets off of these. You know, if Joel played a Switch, he could break the game wide open by switching out of this Paralysis. But, you know, like I said, most Darkrai decks do not play Switch. So it's not going to come up, I don't think. But man, just imagine if he did play Switch. This would just devastate Ross. You know, if you imagine being able to switch and catcher here, knock out 2 Dynamos at once, I think Ross might even just like scoop the game at that point, because there's no way to come back with 3 Dynamos in the discard and then a Super Rod in the discard as well. But the way things are now, you can just see how fragile the situation actually is if Ross doesn't paralyze Joel there. But the way things are now, Ross is feeling okay. He can take in a sigh of relief, and he's still feeling fine. Joel, he's going to catcher out Rayquaza. That's his 3rd catcher gone. I really feel like this is a waste of a catcher. I don't know what you're expecting to do there. Maybe force Ross to have a switch here, but I mean, Ross has only played 1 or 2 switches at this point, so this shouldn't really matter that much. It might buy him a turn of not being Dragon Bursted, but I mean, you're just going to make Ross Thunder Wave again. I don't know. I really like saving catchers for Eelektriks because Joel is down 3 catchers already. And he doesn't really want to use a turn to Junk Hunt because he needs to Night Spear immediately after he gets knocked out. There is no room for leeway. I mean, Ross spends all this time setting up his board, getting that the Eelektriks out, powering up the Rayquaza. So then you have to sit there, and then when he discards all of his energy, you have no window to sit back and relax. Immediately you have to go, boom, catch your Eelektrik, Night Spear. I need to stop you from getting more energy out there. If you spend a turn using Junk Hunt, you throw all that out the window. You're going to end up losing because Ross is going to get too much energy on board. So I can't stress enough how important it is to save your catchers in this sort of a situation. But we'll see what happens from here. Anything could really happen. You know, Joel still has those crushing hammers to fall back on. You can discard the fires from Ross. And we'll see. I don't know. Ross is going to level ball. Clearly this is going to be for an Eelektrik. I actually don't know why this is taking so long. Oh, he decided to grab the reverse hollow Eelektrik. That's why. There are no more Dynamos left. If you're going to take a Pokemon, the only ones left are Eelektrik. So, Ross looks like he's got another decision to make. He's got an Ultra Ball in his hand. Now, Ross is really good about discarding excess cards. What I mean by that is, you assume that you're going to be end at some point later on in the game. So you want to discard junk cards that you won't want to draw into at the end. Maybe sometimes he goes a little overboard, like in this situation. He's discarding a switch and a fire. These are two cards that you actually kind of need near the end of the game. You don't need a ton of them, but you need enough to get those last prizes. The fire one is the one I don't like discarding. Now that's two fire he's discarded, one with a Juniper and one with an Ultra Ball. And he also discarded the switch, which is even stranger because, you know, you would want to play switch there to power up your Rayquaza. But now we'll see what Ross can do. He's going to have to retreat. And then send up his Dynamo. See where he puts these 2 energy for Dynamotor. And once again, he's at a fickle situation. I mean, he puts 2 on the Rayquaza EX. I do not think... Did he attach that turn? Oh, we got Thunder Wave here, and oh man. If he flipped that Tails, this game might have just been over. I actually don't know if Ross attached an energy that turn. He already had 1 on the Dynamo to start the turn. He had 2 on the Rayquaza already, I think. Maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, Joel once again is paralyzed. He can't do anything. He's going to hope to get a Crushing Hammer. But, you know, some of this resource management stuff from Ross might end up biting him. You know, he's discarded a bunch of switches, a bunch of fires. Those are the big cards that he needs to look out for. He's discarded 2 already. His Super Rod's on the discard. There's 1 on his Rayquaza EX. If Joel can use Crushing Hammer to discard all those fires away, he's going to win the game. There's no way around it. Ross, you can't win the game Volt Bolting against Darkrai's. It's going to be way too tough. So let's see. Joel, once again, he can only just sit there and pass. Ross is going to attach to his Rayquaza. He should be able to Dynamotor again if there's a lightning in there. He's going to catch her. Oh, okay. He's just going to catch her the other Darkrai. So maybe there isn't a lightning in his discard. That means he can just Dragon Burst for 180 here, since there's no Eevee. Oh, he's got a switch in hand. Oh, he's going to play an N. Alright, so he wants to play this now before he takes 2 prizes. It's always a smart thing to do. You want to use your N at the most opportune times. Usually before you knock out an EX is a good one, since you're going to draw 6 and then draw 2 more from your prizes. And then you don't really want N in your deck later on if you're going to be the one who needs to draw your cards, because it's just going to end up disrupting you more than it helps you. Now Ross is going to draw 6. Joel will draw 5 since he's already taken a prize. And Ross, he's really going to want to get another Eelektrik out. Otherwise, he opens himself up to that massive catcher, Eelektrik, and knockout Dynamo for a double prize. That is probably the most devastating thing in the format. Getting the double prize on an Eelektrik and a Dynamo? Ooh, that is bad. So we see that 30 earlier from Night Spear is paying off from Joel, deciding to go for the Dynamo instead of the Victini. Ross is going to Dynamotor to his Raikou EX and then Dragon Burst for the first knockout of the game for him. Alright, where does Joel go from here? I really think he needs a catcher immediately, but he's already used 3. This is where you need your catchers. Oh, he drew his 4th one. Alright, so he drew his 4th catcher. Way to go, Joel. Alright, so... Ooh, Crushing Hammer, that's going to be so huge. Alright, does he get it? Wow, no, it tails. The flips are going Ross's way this game, between the Thunder Waves and the Crushing Hammers, that's for sure. And, alright, Joel's going to catch her out at Eelektrik. This is going to be a huge swing in the game for a couple reasons. Number one, he's going to get the double knockout, obviously. He's going to take an Eelektrik out, and he's going to take away another potential Eelektrik. The other thing, he needs to get some Darkrai's out of his prizes here, and no, he whiffed. Oh, that's painful. Wow, that is so bad for Joel. He has 2 Darkrai's still in his prizes. He doesn't have any attackers left. So if Ross can manage to power up another Rayquaza and just take out this Darkrai, the game is over. There's nothing he can do about it. Really got to feel bad for Joel here. Nothing is really going his way. Between the paralysis flips, the Crushing Hammer flips, the prizes, just pretty much everything has gone Ross's way this game. But you know, that's just how Pokemon goes sometimes. Ross will not be able to really attack this turn. I mean, with Rayquaza. He can use Thunder Fang with Raikou EX to do 10 and go for paralysis. That is probably his best option here. But again, it's going to come down to some more flips. If he gets a heads for paralysis, then he's going to be golden. If he gets 2 tails, that's going to be some trouble. Ooh, Ross decides to attach a fire to his Raikou. I don't think I like that. He needs those fires. You know, he's being way too liberal with those, I feel. He's got 2 in his discard already, 2 on board. Usually you play about 5 fires in this Eelektrik deck. That's usually about what space allows you. And then we have a Thunder Fang, and oh, he gets another head, so things are still alright for Ross. But putting the fire on Raikou is a big, big deal. He's got 1 left. He's got 1 in his hand, so even if that fire gets discarded by Crushing Hammer, he'll still be okay. But he's got to be careful with that last fire. Now, Joel, he's got an Ultra Ball. We all know at this point that his 2 Darkrai's are prized. And really, if this Darkrai gets knocked out, it is game over. There's no way he's going to win if this Darkrai gets knocked out and he doesn't get 1 out of the prizes. There's just absolutely no way. He's going to grab another Sableye. I'm not sure if he's going to bench that or not. It looks like he will. I don't like that at all. It just opens up Ross to get 2 Voltbolt prizes that he really shouldn't have access to. This is the whole theory behind not benching more Pokemon than you need to, because you're going to force your opponent to knock out more Darkrai's. But I guess in this situation, well, what can you really do when your Darkrai's are prized? Now Ross, let's see. Can he pull off an attack here for a knockout? He needs a Tool Scrapper. If he can get one, he can Dynamotor to the Rayquaza EX, attach a Lightning, Dragon Burst for 180. Easy peasy. Game is over. If he can't, though, I don't know. He's still going to be fine. As long as he doesn't discard that fire. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 have been used up. There's 2 in the discard, 2 on his field. Super Rod's already gone. So he's just got to be careful with that last fire. The only way I can see him losing is if he discards it with an Ultra Ball. So he's going to play Ultra Ball here, discard a Lightning, and oh no. Maybe this was a big oversight by Ross. Did he miscount his fire energy in his deck? Wow, he discards the last one. This opens up the door for Joel. If he can hit just 1 more Crushing Hammer, he can discard the last fire from Ross's Rayquaza EX, and he'll end up winning this game. So Ross is going to Dynamotor to his Rayquaza EX here. I think he's going to try to go... Oh, nope, not going to play Supporter. He's going to Thunder Fang here. These are 2 big flips as well. He gets Tails on the first one. Here's the reflip. And, oh, he got Tails. So Joel is going to have an opportunity here. Wow. Okay. So at this point... Oh, at this point, time was actually called. So Joel should be turn 0. So he's effectively going to get 2 turns here. Wow. This is an incredible situation for Ross, actually. Let's see. Joel, let's see how he uses this turn. He needs Crushing Hammer very badly at this point. Alright, he's going to Juniper. And he's going to draw 7 here. Now, if Joel gets a Crushing Hammer, and then just Night Spears the active, I think he ends up winning this game. No matter what happens with time. Unless Ross hits 7, 8 straight Thunderfang heads, he's out of fire to do anything else. So Joel, if he can nail this Crushing Hammer this turn, if he has one, that's going to be step number 1. And this is a huge flip, guys. This decides the game, basically. Oh, he got the heads. Wow. Okay, that's the last fire gone from Ross's field. He's got none left. If Joel just Night Spears, he hits the Raikou for 90. I think Joel wins this game. After everything that's gone wrong, I think he wins. This is going to be such a big win for Joel here, but oh, he's going to retreat. Uh-oh. Oh, he's retreating. No, he's retreating to his Sableye. I guess he's going to use Junk Hunt here. He needs to get catchers. That's his only way. But he's... Alright, this is the problem. He's opened the door for Ross to... Well, actually, I don't know. We're going to see a Max Potion from Joel. I guess he's really scared of that Rayquaza EX, but he should really just count to see how many fires Ross has gone through. Most decks can't fit more than 5. And even if there are 5 out there, you just take the risk. You say, you know what, if you have your last fire, I lose. Big deal. This is playing way too scared if you're Joel. But if he can grab a catcher here, which he really needs to do, he needs to grab 2 catchers probably. That's going to be his way out here. I think Joel just wins if he takes catchers. There's a Crushing Hammer. What else is he going to take? You need a Pokemon catcher, Joel. And alright, he's got one. So Ross will be turn 1 of time. You see a Crushing Hammer and a catcher from Joel. And really, how does Ross win this one? He can... I don't actually know. You know, if he Volt Bolts, knocks out a Sableye, he ties the game, 3-3. Then Joel just catchers, takes a knockout. And then Ross can what? Volt Bolt? If he takes a Sableye, he ties the game back up. If he attacks the Darkrai, he loses the game. So Joel is at an extreme advantage here because Ross is out of fire. I really think Joel wins this game as long as he catchers for a prize next turn. There's no way Ross can prevent it. There's no fire energy left for him to Dragon Burst with Rayquaza EX. Now Ross is turn 1 of time, so maybe he can find some magical way out that I'm not thinking of. But, yeah, I don't know. What can Ross do here to prevent Joel from just winning the game? He didn't play an N. That would have been his one way to find a way out here. Wow, guys, this is such a huge moment in this game. I suppose Ross could get another Raikou EX into play. That would have been one way for him to pull this off. If he can play musical chairs with some Raikous, maybe he could pull it off that way. But Joel, he should just be able to catch out Ross's Eelektrik next turn. This is a big flip here on Thunderfang, sorry, for 30. It's going to hit the Sableye for 30. Now Joel is turn 2 of time. He needs to save his catcher. For the love of God, he needs to save his catcher this turn. It's very tempting to try to buy time here, but if you're Joel, you need to just stay calm and understand, yeah, Ross can take a prize next turn, but if he does, big whoop. I get to take a prize too. That Raikou is not overpowering my Darkrai. Let's see, it looks like Joel got another tails on that Crushing Hammer. As long as Joel doesn't waste his 4th catcher, he is going to win the game. But, oh no, Joel, he's gonna catch out the Eelektrik. He's paralyzed, so he can't do anything. Oh, and that's actually gonna give Ross the opportunity he needed to win this game. That's a shame to see. Joel really needed to hold on to that catcher. Just wait until your Darkrai can attack. This is Ross's third turn of time. He can Volt Bolt, tie the game up, and now you cannot catch her. And you've just opened the door. You know, two little mistakes here for Joel. Number one, benching the extra Sableye. This is ultimately what's costing him the game. Number two, playing that catcher. If you don't do either of those, I think you win here. Just because Ross, he screwed up as well by discarding too many fire energy. But now, oh man, gotta feel bad for Joel. He's gonna end up losing this one, I think, if Ross can get another Raikou out here. Ross, alright, doesn't look like he's getting another Raikou, but all he needs is a switch now and he can Volt Bolt for the game. It's now sudden death. The next prize will win the game because time has been called. And you know, it's a shame because Joel clearly wins this game if it's played out. And he wins the game if he saves his catcher. But, you know, time is time for a reason. It's part of the rules. And all Joel can do now is Night Spear. And if Ross has that one more catcher, this game is over. He's going to do 90-30 to Victini. Does Ross have the last switch? The switch for the game, the switch and the lightning will be game over. And oh man, Ross just somehow squeaks out another victory here. He's going to switch to his Raikou, attach, Dynamotor, and Volt Bolt to knock out that Sableye. He's going to take a win on time. Joel had so many ways to win that. You know, Ross just kind of screwed up with the fire energy discards, but Joel should have won that game. Ends up on the wrong end of it, but that was a very, very close game, a great match between these two players. They're both going to make top cuts, so no big deal, but congratulations to Ross. We got one more round left from this regional championship, so stay tuned, guys. We'll be back for one more.